Atlanta, with all its glimmer and grind, had a way of making me feel both lost and found. It was a place where dreams were made, but also where people got lost chasing illusions. I had my feet planted firmly on the ground, or at least I tried to. I'd just gotten my master's degree, a fresh-faced 28-year-old with a solid tech job, living alone in a modest apartment. My family was scattered, some gone, some distant, and I was the oldest sister that was often leaned on for help. And I was always there, always strong, always having everything together. Kinda. But there was a part of me, buried deep, that longed for more. A deeper connection. A love that wasn't just about convenience or need, but a love that was steady and true. I wasn't in a rush for it, though. I had dreams, my bakery, but I wasn't ready for that leap. Not yet. Then there was Marcus. Marcus first crossed my path as I was leaving the office walking through Piedmont Park. He was leaning against the railing by the lake, the setting sun casting a soft glow on his face. He was everything I shouldn't want, but everything I couldn't help but notice. Tall with a body that seemed carved from stone, dark eyes that carried secrets I wasn't ready to uncover, and a smile that could disarm the most guarded woman. He was confident, bordering on cocky, and I could tell immediately that he had a way with women. But with me, it felt different. He saw something in me that intrigued him, and he made sure to keep my attention, never too forward, but always just close enough. "Selah," he said one evening as we bumped into each other at the office break room. He knew my name, though I didn't remember telling him. He leaned in close enough that I could smell his cologne, deep, woodsy, and masculine. "I've been watching you work. You're intelligent, creative, beautiful, but your work is missing something. You should be leading projects here, not just in the shadows. I want to help you get there, if you want." His words were like velvet sliding over my skin. Finally, someone was giving me the proper recognition, but something about it made me feel like he was offering something dangerous, but I couldn't help but want to hear more. There was something about him that felt promising, like he could truly get me to the next level of my career. I mean, he did have power in the office. That night, Marcus showed up at my apartment uninvited. He knocked on the door, and when I opened it, he walked right past me as if he belonged there. Where did he get my address from? "I heard you were struggling with your project," he said, his voice low, almost soothing. "I could help you. All you need to do is let me in. Let me show you how good it could feel if you let go of all the pressure. I can help you, Selah. You deserve better than other people taking credit for your genius. I can get you to where you need to be." His hands grazed my arm as he spoke, sending a jolt of electricity through me. I told myself to step back, that it was wrong, that I wasn't the kind of woman who would fall for this. But Marcus wasn't asking for much, just my trust, just a little piece of me. His lips brushed against my ear, sending chills down my spine. "I'm not like the rest, Selah. You know that, don't you? Let me give you what you deserve." And for a fleeting moment, I considered it. I thought about how easy it would be to fall into his arms, to let him take care of everything, to give in to that temptation that whispered constantly. He was offering me everything I wanted, comfort, luxury, a life that seemed too good to pass up. But something in me held back. There was a gnawing feeling, something I couldn't ignore. I turned away from him, stepping back, my heart pounding in my chest. "No, Marcus, this isn't me," I said, my voice shaky. He didn't respond immediately, and for a moment I thought he would leave. But instead he stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his hands gentle but firm as he touched my face. "Selah," he whispered, "you're only fooling yourself. You've been waiting too long for them to recognize your genius. Stop waiting around for something to happen. Make it happen with me." And in that moment, the pull was undeniable. but I resisted, and not too long after, he left. Time passed, and things got worse. My job in tech, which had seemed like a safe path, began to drain me. Everyone loved my creativity and drive, yet never gave me the credit and recognition. Do I stay in my office or try to follow my dreams of opening the bakery? I was drowning in uncertainty, but I held on, hoping that the plan would reveal itself. So I took off. I needed time to myself. I've always found solace in silence. There was a certain peace in being alone with my thoughts, even if my heart occasionally felt heavy with the weight of unspoken desires. It seems as though when you are in silence that God can speak the loudest. God, I trust you. I know you'll send me exactly what I need. I need a little help here. I can't do this alone and don't want to make a mistake. The prayer was whispered under my breath, more out of habit than expectation, but something about it felt different this time, as if the words carried weight beyond what I could understand. Feeling good, I decided to go down to my apartment cafe to make a matcha latte. I love a good matcha, iced half and half, and a couple pumps of vanilla syrup. Yum. The cafe was warm, cozy, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a perfect sanctuary for a slow morning. As I stood up to get more cream for my matcha latte, I felt a rush of air and suddenly, bump. I turned startled, only to find a man standing before me. Tall, broad shoulders, bronze skin with eyes dark and steady, and a gentle intensity. I took a small step back, feeling my heart race slightly. "I'm sorry," he said with a calm smile, his voice deep and smooth. "Didn't mean to crowd you." I smiled, feeling a strange comfort in his presence. "No, it's okay. I wasn't looking where I was going." He chuckled softly, and something in his smile felt familiar, as if we had met before, or at least as if his energy had been part of my world for much longer than this brief encounter. "I'm Elijah," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Selah," I replied, shaking his hand. His touch was warm, firm, but it wasn't the kind of handshake that made you feel uncomfortable. It was grounded, as though he was someone who wasn't here to take, but to simply be. For the rest of that morning, we shared the same space without saying much, but there was an unspoken connection between us. He was in and out of the cafe, listening to sermons, and I couldn't help but notice how his presence seemed to fill the room with a sense of calm. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had seen him around the apartment complex where I lived. We both lived on the same floor, just a few doors down from each other. Elijah seemed to always be there when I needed a moment of calm, as if he were sent to remind me that I wasn't walking through life alone. Our conversations were effortless, the kind of discussions that felt timeless. We spoke about everything and nothing, life, God, dreams, and small observations about the world around us. It was comfortable, even when there were moments of silence. It felt like we'd always known each other. One rainy afternoon, after a particularly stressful day at work, I was sitting in the cafe, nursing my usual matcha latte, when Elijah walked in. His presence immediately felt like a breath of fresh air, though there was something different about him that day. He looked at me, smiled, and then with that same calm, confident air, approached my table. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his eyes sparkling as he waited for my response. "Not at all," I said, moving my bag so he could sit down. He pulled out the chair, settling across from me, his expression thoughtful. "You've been on my mind," he admitted, his voice soft but steady. "I was wondering if you'd like to go out this weekend." I blinked, surprised by the question, but immediately intrigued. "Go out? Like on a date?" He nodded, his gaze never leaving mine. "Yeah, I've been wanting to ask you for a while now. I think we'd have a great time." I felt a warmth spread through me, my heart racing a little faster than usual. I wasn't sure what it was about Elijah, but there was a quiet sincerity to him, a kindness in his eyes that I hadn't experienced in a long time. "Sure," I said, smiling. "I'd like that." Our date was set for that Saturday night, and when the time finally arrived, I could hardly contain my excitement. Elijah picked me up from my apartment, and when he arrived at my door, his smile was warm, his eyes kind. "Are you ready?" he asked, and I nodded, feeling a rush of butterflies in my stomach. He didn't tell me where we were going at first. As we drove through the Atlanta streets, the city lights flickering outside, I couldn't help but wonder where he was taking me. After what felt like an eternity, we pulled up to a small, intimate bakery that I'd never seen before. "Noir Sweets?" I read aloud as I looked at the sign on the door. The rich, elegant lettering stood out against the dim lights. It was cozy, unassuming, but the scent of freshly baked goods wafting from inside made my stomach growl. "This is it," Elijah said, a grin on his face. "A hidden gem. Trust me, you're going to love it." I was skeptical at first, but as soon as I stepped inside, all my doubts disappeared. The bakery was warm and inviting, with soft jazz music playing in the background. The walls were lined with local artwork, and the display cases were filled with decadent pastries, flaky croissants, rich chocolate tarts, and glistening fruit-filled pastries that looked like they belonged in a dream. "This place is beautiful," I whispered, taking it all in. "I thought you'd like it," Elijah said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It's actually a Black woman-owned business. The owner, SRYI, is someone I know. She's a really good person, always helping and taking care of her people." I turned to him, surprised. "You know the owner? That's amazing. I've actually been looking into starting my own bakery. I've been researching, trying to figure out the first steps, and I've been thinking that maybe I should find a mentor to help me along the way." Elijah smiled, his expression full of warmth and pride. "Oh, really? SRYI's been in the business for years. She knows all the ins and outs. Let me introduce you." A rush of excitement flooded through me, a sense of purpose washing over me. This felt like a sign, a direct answer to my prayers. I hadn't expected things to fall into place so quickly. "That would be incredible, Elijah. Thank you." After a long, leisurely evening of indulging in sweets and talking about our dreams, our aspirations, and everything in between, Elijah drove me home, the car ride filled with comfortable silence. When we arrived, he turned to me, his expression soft. "I'm glad we did this," he said quietly. "I've enjoyed every moment." "Me too," I whispered back, my heart full. "Thank you for bringing me here. It means more than you know." The following weeks were a blur of excitement and new beginnings. Elijah had connected me with SRYI, who took me under her wing and became the mentor I desperately needed. I spent my weekends learning the intricacies of running a bakery, perfecting recipes, understanding business logistics, and soaking up all the knowledge SRYI had to offer. It was everything I had dreamed of, but I still felt the pressure of my day job hanging over me. The tension at work had been building for months. The company was restructuring, and my department was being downsized. I had been feeling the weight of my responsibilities for a while, but now it was all crashing down. It started as a whisper, rumors that layoffs were imminent. But when I was called into my manager's office one Thursday afternoon, I knew something was off. "Selah, we've had to make some difficult decisions," my manager said, looking at me with a mix of sympathy and detachment. "Your position has been eliminated. We're letting you go." I sat there stunned, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I had worked so hard, given everything to this job, and now it was all slipping through my fingers. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a daze, barely processing the news. I had been let go. My future was suddenly uncertain. That night I texted Elijah, letting him know what had happened. His response was immediate, comforting. "I'm so sorry, Selah. I know this is tough, but I believe in you. This could be the push you needed to focus on your bakery full time. I'm here for you, no matter what." His words were like a balm to my bruised soul, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been so close to success, and now everything was falling apart. As I sank down onto the couch, still reeling from the conversation with my manager, a knock on the door startled me. I stood up, unsure of who it could be. When I opened it, I was met with the sight of Elijah, his familiar warm smile greeting me. "Hey," he said softly, his eyes instantly taking in the worry on my face. "I got your message. Can I come in?" I stepped aside to let him in, my heart heavy with the weight of everything I had just learned. Elijah didn't say anything at first. He simply wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into a gentle embrace. His touch was reassuring, his presence grounding. I let myself lean into him, feeling the tension that had been building inside me slowly begin to ease. "I'm sorry, Selah," he murmured against my curly fro. "I know how hard you've worked for this, and I know how much it means to you." I sniffed, trying to hold back tears. I thought I was doing everything right. I was always the one they could count on, and now it's all gone. Elijah pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes, his hands cupping my face. "You're not defined by that job, Selah. You are so much more than your title or what you do for others. You're Selah. You've got a future and a light that's brighter than anything they can offer. This is just a bump in the road." I nodded, letting his words sink in. He was right, but even so, I felt lost. I didn't know what the next step was. I didn't know how to pick myself up from here. I relaxed in his arms for a moment, allowing myself to feel the peace he brought. But just as I was beginning to find a moment of solace, Elijah stepped away. "I'll be right back," he said softly, heading toward the bathroom. I sighed and sank back onto the couch, letting the quiet of the room settle around me. But before I could process the silence, there was a knock at the door. I didn't want company, especially not now. But when I opened it, there was Marcus, standing in the doorway with a smirk on his face, a bottle of wine in one hand and a movie in the other. "I thought I'd stop by," Marcus said smoothly, pushing past me before I could protest. His eyes scanned the room like he already owned it. I didn't have the energy to fight, so I stepped aside. "Thanks for bringing the wine," I said flatly, "but I'm really not in the mood for company right now." He ignored me, his smile never wavering. "You know, Selah, I've been thinking about you. I hate seeing you so down. You deserve better than this." His tone oozed with insincerity. He moved closer, offering me the movie, but his eyes never left mine, his expression darkening. "And I can make that happen. I can get your job back for you. All you have to do is spend one night with me." The words hit me like a slap, the sick feeling in my stomach overwhelming. I instinctively took a step back, disgust flooding my chest. "What the hell did you just say?" Marcus stepped forward again, closing the distance, a smug grin on his face. "Don't act like you're too good for this. You know I can get you everything you want. I can fix this for you, your job, your life, if you just give me what I want." My whole body tensed, fury rising in me. "I don't need anything from you, Marcus, and I sure as hell don't need you manipulating me into getting it." His grin faded, replaced by annoyance. "You think I'm manipulating you? I'm just trying to help you out. You don't want to end up back at the bottom unrecognized, do you? You won't be able to climb out of this without my help. You know that." I shook my head, disgusted by his words. "No, I'll never pay the price you're asking." Marcus pushed up against me, my body tensing. "No, Marcus, get off me, get out," I yelled. Just then, the bathroom door swung open. Elijah stepped out, his eyes instantly locking onto the scene. His face hardened, and, without a word, he positioned himself between Marcus and me. Marcus's gaze snapped to Elijah, his posture aggressive. "Who is this?" he spat, looking me up and down. "You bringing strangers into your home now, Selah?" Elijah's jaw clenched, his voice low and cold. "Who the hell are you, and why are you in here?" His stance was protective, and there was no mistaking the intent in his eyes. He was ready to defend me no matter the cost. Marcus sneered, his eyes narrowing as he sized Elijah up. "I'm the one who's going to take care of Selah, in every way." Elijah's eyes flashed with anger. "What'd you just say?" Marcus's fists clenched, his lips curling into a bitter smile. "I can fix her problems. I can get her job back if she just arches that back for me. It's a simple trade. She owes me that much." My stomach turned at his words, and I instinctively stepped back, my body shaking with disgust. But Marcus only took a step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "You think you can just walk in here and threaten her, dude?" Elijah growled, stepping between us, positioning himself as a shield. "You don't get to play games with her life. I'm telling you now, you need to leave." Marcus's eyes burned with malice. He took a threatening step forward, his chest puffing out as he tried to tower over Elijah. "You don't get to tell me what to do," he spat. "This doesn't concern you." Elijah didn't flinch. Instead, his muscles tightened as he prepared for the confrontation. "It does concern me. You're not going to touch her." Marcus sneered and lunged forward, shoving his chest against Elijah's in a pathetic attempt to intimidate him. Without hesitation, Elijah shoved him back, sending Marcus stumbling into the edge of a chair. The force of the push was enough to send a tremor through the room. Before Marcus could regain his balance, Elijah moved in again. His fist shot out like a bolt of lightning, connecting squarely with Marcus's jaw. The sound of the punch was deafening, and Marcus's head snapped back as he staggered, blood splattering from his lip. The room seemed to hold its breath as Marcus scrambled to his feet, wiping the blood from his chin, his eyes burning with fury. "You're going to regret that," he growled, wiping his bloody lip with the back of his hand. "You'll pay for this." But Elijah stood tall, unwavering, his posture calm, but the threat in his eyes unmistakable. "You're not welcome here. Leave now." Marcus glared at him, fists clenched, but he knew better than to push further. With one last venomous glare, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him with enough force to rattle the walls. The room fell into silence, the tension still hanging thick in the air. I stood frozen, my breath ragged, my heart pounding in my chest. Elijah didn't immediately turn to me, but his presence enveloped me, like a shield that kept the darkness at bay. Finally, Elijah glanced over his shoulder, his expression softening as he walked toward me. "Are you okay?" His voice was gentle, but I could hear the concern beneath it. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing. Yeah, I'm okay." But my hands were still shaking, and I could feel the tremors of the moment coursing through my body. Elijah gently took my hands in his, grounding me with his touch. "You don't have to thank me, Selah. You're worth protecting. Always." Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't from fear anymore. They were from relief, the overwhelming feeling that I wasn't alone, that someone truly had my back, that I wasn't just something to be used or manipulated. "You didn't have to do that," I whispered, my voice trembling, "but I'm so glad you did." Elijah gave me a soft smile, brushing his thumb over my knuckles in a comforting motion. "I'd do anything to keep you safe, Selah. You don't deserve that. You deserve better than that, Selah, he said, his voice full of sincerity. You deserve a man who respects you, who wants the best for you, without compromise. You deserve someone who values you for who you are, not for what he can get from you. I took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of everything I had been carrying slowly lift. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally seen, and that someone cared enough to fight for me. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his arms wrapping around me as I let myself relax into the comfort of his protection. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, safe, protected, and valued. And for the first time, I wasn't alone in this fight. Hey sis, thanks for listening. This is an ode to engaging with love that shows you the right signs, the kind of love that cherishes your dreams, honors your body, and reveres the God you serve. It's a reminder to stay faithful to the promises God has spoken over your life, whether in love, your career, or your journey. Trust in the love that uplifts, encourages, and aligns with the purpose God has for you. Stay rooted in His truth, knowing that His plans for you are greater than anything you could imagine. Don't compromise. The devil will always try to present a quick solution, but at what cost? True fulfillment comes through obedience to God's timing and trusting that His way is better than any shortcut the enemy tries to offer. Keep your heart open to love that aligns with His vision, walks in His ways, and affirms your worth, your dreams, and your purpose. Stay steadfast in the assurance that what He has promised, He will fulfill.